Now, China has hacked Nicholas Burns, our ambassador's unclassified emails, and our envoy to Asia's emails, as well as we previously learned the Commerce Secretary. And I am told reliably by former cyber officials and other experts that 90% of the government's business is done on the unclassified in the unclassified space. So they were able to learn in a novel way, which is very alarming, a lot about our business. Is there some indication that this was going on for quite some time because of how novel their approach was? That they could learn our strategy as you were approaching your important reestablishment of relations on your big trip to Beijing?
So first, you're exactly right. I can't speak to the direct impact of any particular incident. I can say that the incident in question affected only our unclassified system. As soon as we actually, the State Department detected it.
But that's a big deal. The unclassified system is huge.
We now have an ongoing investigation that will determine the impact. As soon as we detected it, which goes back some time, we took immediate steps both to make sure that we were strengthening our protections and defenses. Of course, reported it immediately to Microsoft to make sure that they were doing everything possible. And as a general matter, I've had opportunities to speak directly to Chinese counterparts about the deep concern we would have over anything targeting the U.S. government, targeting U.S. companies, targeting U.S. citizens, and the fact that we'll take appropriate action if we need to in response.
Are you concerned about our vulnerabilities here?
This is a constant effort, as you know, as we all live in cyberspace. So much of our life is in cyberspace. Of course, it's a constant concern, and there is an ongoing effort, quite literally every single day, to make sure that all of our systems are as strong and protected as they can be.
But isn't this a basic attack on our sovereignty? Where do you draw the line?
Again, what we've had occasion to share more than once with China is the concern that anything targeting the government, targeting citizens, targeting companies is a real concern for us. And we have in the past, we will in the future, as necessary, take appropriate action. Look, I can't say more than that at this point, especially since we have an ongoing investigation. We need to learn the full impact, even as we've taken steps to make sure that our information is protected.
Speaking again of China, Secretary Kerry, the envoy, the president's envoy, has just completed his mission and has failed to get China to agree to any reduction in emissions. In fact, President Xi gave a speech while he was there saying that not only would they not reduce emissions, they wouldn't close any of their coal-fired plants. This makes it clear that before the big global summit, in the Emirates, in November, there won't be any progress towards the goals that are much delayed.
So, Andrew, first, the purpose of John's trip was not to get an agreement, was not to get some concrete deliverable. The purpose was to renew the conversation, the dialogue we've been having with China on climate. They're the world's largest emitter. We're number 2. This is the only place where I'm happy to be number 2 to China.
But they alone are emitting more than all of the other developed nations combined.
Which only underscores the import and the urgency of China taking action, urgent action, to deal with its emissions. And I think what Secretary Kerry, what John conveyed, was that sense of urgency. Look, we're in a position now where every G7 country, the world's leading economies, every G7 country has adopted plans that, if implemented, would hold warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The same cannot be said of the G20, the G13 beyond the G7. And so one of the things that we have to do and that we're working on is to help countries, encourage countries, prod countries to make the necessary progress, to adopt the necessary targets and plans, and then to implement them. We've made the single largest investment in history in combating climate change through the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. We've demonstrated that we're serious about this, and we'll have the tools to make good on our commitments. Here's what I think. When it comes to China, if it wants to be seen as a responsible leader globally, it has to be responsive to demand signals that it's getting from the region, from around the world. One of those demand signals, and certainly that'll be the case at COP28, is for it to take the necessary actions to curb emissions and to do what's necessary to get to 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is an ongoing conversation. I think it was very important that John went and renewed that dialogue, but also conveyed the sense of urgency. Now, last thing I'll say is this. I think if you're sitting in Beijing's shoes, you're looking at this challenge on the one hand, and on the other hand, I think the imperative they feel to focus on growth, on economic growth.
Their economy is
they've not had the rebound that they anticipated getting out of COVID. I think for China right now, that is job number one. But there is a real tension between that and the absolute imperative of dealing urgently with the climate challenge.
Which we're all feeling here in the U.S. and all over Europe and all over the world now. It is a reality.